Happy Saturday, and what a song. What a song. Ooh, that song moves me every time I hear it. And of course, we're going to be tying that song into today's show. And today's show, I spent so many hours yesterday trying to find the right song because there's so many love songs out there, and they all kind of say the same thing. So I was really looking for something that was really moving. And I think that song it's so moving. It tells a story. It's probably one of the greatest rock ballads of all time. It's Phil Collins, if you were unfamiliar with who that was. And he's heartbroken, and he, feels like he cannot communicate to this person that he's in love with, and they're not communicating. And how could I just let you walk away and see me cry when there's so many things I have to say to you, so many reasons why. You're the only one who ever really knew me, and they can't even communicate. They can't even talk to each other. And it's a heart-wrenching song, but yet beautiful. And I find that it very well encompasses the romantic love and what tends to happen. And I think that the number one fear in 2020 is not what you think. It's not that we're going to have a race war, and it's not that we are going to all die from a pandemic, because I think deep inside we all know that's not going to happen, that those are very temporary things that will, come and go. And it's nothing political, and it's not that we're going to turn into a socialist country. I don't believe that any of those things are going to actually happen, although there's definitely a major push and pull, and a political uprising and revolutions in every one of our systems right now, the executive, legislative, and judicial branches of government. But that's not, I don't think, what any of us really truly fear. And as a marriage and family therapist and mental health counselor, I've learned that the one basic fear that all human beings have is that of not being loved. And it's so painful, the idea of not being loved, that I thought the song Against All Odds was a perfect piece of art to capture that pain. We all fear going throughout our lives without love in one way or another. And wanting to be loved is a major motivator behind everything that we do. And I think it's the major motivator even behind things that we do that aren't positive. Many people have tried to explain the essence of human nature. Many psychologists, many theoreticians have tried to explain, what that could be. What is the motivating factor? And, you'll hear sex and aggression from Sigmund Freud. You'll hear power from Carl Jung. You'll hear, a need to fit in from others. And I think it's very simple. I think it's that we all want to be loved. And it's really that simple. Hold on. Suri, come on in. She's stuck on the steps. She's afraid of not being loved right now. She wants to be in here. And she's stuck on the steps in my home, and she can't get up, so I may have to get up and get her. But in the meantime, if everyone would stop for a moment and think about, is what I'm saying true? Does it resonate with you? Is there love in your life? And it's not necessarily have to be a romantic love. It could be, any kind of love. And I'm going to go get Suri so we can go on with the show and not listen to her barking the whole time. So just a moment while you think about that. Seriously, Suri? All right. Now I've got both of the kids here, so yes, that was Suri who was stuck. She was stuck. Say hi. Okay, so this is where my love comes from. These guys, mostly. And I know that as long as I have these guys, that I'm pretty good to go. That I don't need, I don't need that much more than this. There you go. But in all honesty, I think that we all are searching for love, and I want to talk about how that need to be loved motivates everything that we do, good, bad, and ugly. And we can look at that motivation from politics all the way down to our personal lives. Okay. And you might be thinking, well, what does love have to do with, Trumpers and Biden and all that stuff? Okay. So if your goal is to be loved, okay, we can all think of somebody out there who tries to put on a facade for other people through social media, right? I mean, you see it every day. You always see, the one person who has their boobs hanging out, which I'm personally very against. So you might see somebody with that and you think, oh, who would, present themselves like that on social media, especially if they have children or, whatever. Or you see people doing these constant selfie pictures of themselves and, and filtering them and putting them up on social media. And you think, what is the problem with this person? They need so much attention and it's just it's kind of annoying, and you just wonder why they're doing it. And you almost think, you're kind of embarrassed for them. But beneath all that embarrassment or whatever it is that they're doing to themselves, the bottom motivation is they want love. You can say attention, and yes, they want attention because they maybe are too childish to understand that in order to, get the attention, the love that you want in a relationship, you need to actually connect with other human beings through meaningful conversation, not through a filtered photo. But, and that people are put off by that. So you're actually doing the opposite of what you really want, which is to be loved and admired. But underneath all of that is somebody who's desperate to be loved. And the thought of going through life alone, which I wrestled with, what is the biggest human fear? Is it being alone in your life? And I thought, well, no, it's not really alone that's the issue. It's the feeling of being alone, which feels like not being loved. So the feeling of being not loved, I think, is the greatest human fear. And this time, and always will be, and always has been. And so we find all of these different ways to make up for that fear in society. And, if you even look at something like jealousy, the jealousy is I think largely a very, at least when not expressed in a healthy way, jealousy is a very dangerous emotion, or very jealous. I don't know if it's an emotion or virtue, the feeling that you don't have as much as someone else or have something as good as someone else, and that makes you feel like you are living on a deficit of something. So that feeling of jealousy can be really destructive when people express it in a bad way. And even behind jealousy, the feeling is, well, that person's successes, or that person's, money or looks or whatever, or, intellect or whatever, makes me feel so small and so insignificant that I have to stop that person from being that, because it makes me feel so bad, and it reminds me that in my mind I will never truly find love. And that's really sad, because it's not true. But all of these motivations, and I think the negative ones, if you think about let's say people who have eating disorders, okay, who hurt their bodies or harm their bodies to look a certain way. Psychologists will say, well, it's about control and it's about this. And I've worked with plenty of people with eating disorders in my time. But again, what's the bottom line? They don't feel good enough. They don't feel acceptable. They feel unloved. And so in order for them to be loved, they believe they have to look a certain way. and or maintain a certain weight, or they will not be loved. And so I think if everyone kind of, thinks about what I'm saying right now, you can reflect upon yourselves and think, okay, what do I feel loved in my life? And if I don't feel loved in my life, do I act out upon that in any way? Do I hurt other people in any way because of the lack of love that I have in my life? And I think maybe, I don't think that everybody does, but I think a lot of us do. And I think all the destructive things that we do in our lives come from the lack of the love, of self-love, of love of other people. And it sounds really simple, and it sounds really like trite, like almost like a Hallmark card. But I believe that it's the absolute truth. It's the absolute truth. So let's take it a little bit further. Going back to the opening song, has anyone ever done anything desperate to be loved? Okay. And that could be a bunch of things. That could be, chasing somebody that you're in love with, whose affections you can't win, or, acting like a fool, begging for somebody to love you. Maybe you've done the opposite, maybe you've run away because you're afraid that you won't get enough love from someone or you'll be rejected. You follow me? There's all these different scenarios where wanting love or desiring to be loved is the ultimate motivation in a lot of our destructive behaviors. Okay, so I can't wait to see if we can get some questions up here, see what's going on. So let's take it. So we're looking at love, romantic love, love of, family, of others, and looking inside us to figure out, okay, does our fear of not being loved, which I believe we all live with that, does that cause us to get involved in any destructive behavior towards others, destructive behavior towards ourselves? And, when we're talking about romance, this is really the place where it's quite, daunting what happens, because in romance, there's no two people who are more destructive to each other in many circumstances than lovers, right? I mean, lovers, they abuse each other, they hit each other, they punch each other, they throw things at each other, they call each other the worst names. Romantic lovers treat each other worse typically than any other relationship that I can think of. And I'm not saying all lovers do this, okay, but many do. And even if you have a very, healthy and balanced relationship, I'm sure there's one time or another where, you guys went crazy on each other and said really mean things to each other that you wouldn't say to anybody else. Lovers will treat each other worse than they would anybody else. And it drives me up the wall. I cannot, I wish that weren't so. But it is. We will, lie to our lovers. We will withhold love from our lovers. We will do too much. We will forget ourselves. We will do so many destructive things to ourselves and to each other just for that love, Love, just for that good stuff. And, it's really fascinating. It's really quite fascinating when you think about it. People, do you agree? People will literally do anything to feel loved. They will do anything. So I think it's something to really think about and consider and reflect upon yourself. Do you get destructive in love? Do you destroy yourself on some level because you want to be loved? You want to get love? or you want to fill the lack thereof of love in your life. And love can be, it could be considered acceptance, attention, all of that. But we want somebody so desperately to look at us and say, you are enough. I love you just the way that you are. And that's it. Did anyone ever let the love of their life get away because they were afraid to fail that person? They were afraid to, take a chance on love. And so, like the opening song, they just blew it and never communicated the way they really felt because of ego and because of fear and because, your fear of being rejected was more important than actually going after the love of your life. I think that happens a lot too. So all of these interesting things that happen that we see in the world that we can't understand, I do believe the desire to be loved is behind it. You can look at almost any situation in life, no matter how heinous the behavior is, and you can look and say, okay, the motivation of this person is loved. Now, I don't know how far I would take it. I think it does stop somewhere. I mean, I don't think I would say like a serial killer is looking for love. They're looking for control. That's what they're looking for. And, that is, a different type of person, almost like a different species. And I wouldn't put them in the same category, but I would definitely say that most of us and most of our behaviors are because we want love, because we want to be recognized, because we want to be acknowledged. And even if we're addicted to something, if we drink all the time or drug all the time, it's probably because we feel unloved on some level, because we hate ourselves on some level. And we don't know what it's like to feel loved, or we haven't allowed ourselves the experience. So the only experience that we can feel is that of euphoria or being drunk, because we don't really know what the true experience of love is. The greatest drug, by the way, if you haven't ever tried it. Okay? And I think that's really what we're all looking for. So understanding how that operates, understanding how that is so much behind so much that we see in our society and that we think is so understood. Why would somebody dress like that? Or why would they, put themselves in that outfit in public? Or, why would they walk around looking like that? Or why would they walk around saying those kind of things? And it's like breaking it all down. They want love. They want love. That's it. And if we can see the world in that manner, boy, doesn't that change things? Doesn't that change things? And again, I think the idea is that these people who may act in this way of attention seeking, of largely attention seeking, that we go, oh my God, what are they doing? They've never matured beyond the point of understanding how real love is developed and maintained and created. And so they go about it the way like a little child would, which is to act up, or, to, do something really over the top to get mommy and daddy's attention, come here, buddy. And that's what you see. That's really what you see going on. So all that attention seeking, all of that behavior really comes down to, either wanting to be loved or a lack thereof in their life. So, okay, what does all that mean? What's the point? I always say, what's the point of me, these things that I talk about, right? What is the point? So before I hit the screen, I want to address that. So I think the point is that if we understand that love is the motivating force, behind human motivation and, behind human action and behind human behavior in one way or the other, if we understand that, I think it can make us have a little bit more compassion for other people and for people who act like a fool, okay? Or who, act in a way that brings shame upon their own behavior because they're just looking so badly to be loved. Come here. Like my dog's whining right now because he wants my attention and he's not going to stop. Come here. and he's not going to stop until he gets it. That's like what little kids do, right? That's what a lot of adults do, and that's what they use social media to do, is to put it out there. But when you understand that it's that love and the desire to be loved, or the lack of love they have in their lives, you can have more compassion for it. So I think that's one reason that this should be meaningful. I think that if you understand this concept, it can really help you in your relationships. It can help you become closer to people and perhaps have some really important conversations with them. And I think that it also can help you obtain better relationships going forward, which is really important. Because instead of sitting in fear, hold on, let me get Coors. Come here, buddy. Okay. Instead of sitting in fear all the time, or worry that you're not going to get your needs met, or that you're not going to get what you want, you can be more, upfront in the relationships that you're working to create. And if everyone understands that we're all kind of coming from the same playing field, we just might have different ways of going about it, then our arguments with our partners can, sort of de-escalate much easier. The bad behavior of other people in society can sort of, we can de-escalate our reactions to that, and we can sort of minimize our own pain that others may cause us, because we can really cut it down and say, okay, like, what a lack of love they have in their life to treat somebody like that, to act like that towards somebody. They must have not been loved enough, or they must be really searching for love and never had it. And I'm not saying there aren't evil people out there, because I believe that there are. I believe that there are people out there who are just evil and just really want to hurt and destroy. But again, where does that come from? Probably from a lot of pain, a lot of jealousy, a lot of feeling really bad about themselves. But if you shift the focus and say, okay, all these people, all this stuff, this craziness is coming from a lack of love. Think about how you're going to respond and react to that versus, oh, this person's like really evil out to get me. I also want to say that I think it's critical to understand this for your relationships. I mean, critical. And I think that even in the political wars that we're watching right now, and that many of us are maybe even a part of, if we try to understand that from a perspective of love, okay, where there's conflict, and there's, I think, social conflict, political conflict is necessary in some ways, sort of like photosynthesis is necessary for like plants to grow, okay? There has to be a certain system, or there has to be a certain, a process or a system in order for things to grow and to come up to be what they need to be, right? There's, the human system of development, there's, photosynthesis and all those things that need to be in line in order for plants to grow, humans to grow, all that. Well, social change, in order to have social change and social evolution, which ultimately will bring social stability, you need to have conflicting sides, because through conflict, you get more into a sort of, you get more to a meeting ground eventually, right? Like the universe sort of balances itself out with like a yin and yang sort of situation. So if you have, one political standpoint against another one, and you have various political standpoints around the world to look at and to study and to understand, and we know that through, arguing about it, and changing and flip-flopping and going back and forth with different leadership, with different ideas, ultimately we come to, some sort of evolutionary process. So I think that if we look at things from a like a different standpoint, it like we're not necessarily in it, but we're watching it. It feels better, and we don't have to let it take up so much of our life and so much space in our lives, because this too shall pass. It's a cycle. It's a cycle. But as far as human relationships are concerned, human relationships and love is the underlying, in my opinion, is the underlying motivating force for all actions, behaviors, thoughts in relationships, and even in the human mind. So let me see what the screen says. If you are truly in love, does jealousy exist? I always thought jealousy stemmed from insecurity. Wow. Does jealousy really exist in true love? Man, what a question. Thank you, Tara Lee. Yeah, I think it does. I think it does. I think that it looks different. I think jealousy in a very, insecure, sort of destructive relationship where, needs are not being met, or there's unkind, disrespectful words or behavior. I think that jealousy is going to look really, really ugly. Jealousy can be, just very, it's ugly. I mean, it's underhanded, it's sneaky, it's manipulative. It acts like, it likes you when it hates you. It's very, 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 very scary emotion. And it makes people behave very, very, very scary and very out of character, or maybe in character, I don't know. But, and in true love, it's like, define true love. I don't know. I don't even know how to define true love. I mean, we're going really deep here. I mean, there's biblical explanations. There's a lot of, religious explanations. And most religions say that, they don't speak of true love really in terms of romance. They speak of it in terms of like total acceptance of others, or other things with no judgment, which is really hard to do in the human world, because we're constantly judging everything. So I don't even know how to define true love, exactly, but I think in the context of what you're asking, if you're really in love with another person in a romantic situation, won't your jealousy stop? And I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I think it might lessen, because you're going to feel like, okay, I know where I stand with this person, and I trust this person, and I know that the jealousy I'm feeling is not going to go anywhere. So you can sort of talk yourself out of it and manage it really well. But I think there's always a slight bit of jealousy with lovers. And a lot of it has to do with your personality. But I think there's always a little bit of jealousy, because when we want our beloved's undivided love and attention. I mean, I just think that no matter what, you're always going to have a tinge of it. That's just my opinion, but great question. Jeez. Goodness. It's really challenging me here. All right, let's see the next one. Struggling to look a certain way or not feeling good enough for someone to love sounds like that is a lack of self-love. If you don't love and accept yourself, how can you expect others to? And yeah, and that's a great point. And, that was really when we talked about our show that we did the other day was, I think it was just, we did it on Wednesday, the difference between loneliness and being alone. And if you haven't watched that show, you need to watch that show, because I would watch that show first and then watch or rewatch this one, because you need to understand that, yes, the most important relationship you can have is with yourself. Because if you don't like yourself, or you're not, satisfied and fulfilled in your own life with your own emotions and your own actions, then you're always going to feel like you're in lack of something in relationships. And you're always going to be looking for something else to fill up that lack, whether it's that person himself or herself, whether it's drugs and alcohol, whether it's, whatever vice you have. And so I think that, yes, I think you're absolutely right that the most important love one can have is with oneself. And when you have true love with oneself, then definitely your relationships are going to be so much easier for you. And they can be so much deeper because you really know who you are and where you're coming from. So I think that's really important. Okay, so let me see where we go. Okay. All of that destructive behavior sounds more like obsession than love. Love should be a beautiful and caring, not hurtful and ugly. Yeah, well, that's true. But let me tell you something. I think there's various levels of love. And again, you know, trying to define true love is almost impossible. You know, like all the sages and the philosophers have been trying to do that, you know, forever, you know, and I really don't know how to define it. You know, I could take some guesses, but I really don't know how to define true love. You know, I could say there are special loves out there that we hopefully get to experience that are much more meaningful and connected than all the other loves we've had. And they have to be safe, but they have to have mystery. You know, like romantic love has to be just right. It's very complex. You know, it's not simple. People think it's simple. I don't think it's simple. I think it's very complex as to what makes two people really fall in love with each other. And yes, I think when you have a lot of destruction and destructive behavior, it's like, you know, a 3 and a 4-year-old trying to live in an adult marriage. That, you know, I see that a lot, and it's not going to work, and it's not going to happen. You have to have a certain kind of maturity, emotional maturity, in order to have a successful romantic love, in my view. And yes, I think many relationships are not necessarily love. They're about, you know, a lack thereof of wanting to be loved. So I'll just take anything someone gives me, a desperation almost of love. And you know, we'll look at this as this is just exciting for the moment. And then it's as exciting as it is, as miserable as it is. And I enjoy the thrill of the abusive cycle. So I'll stick into it. You know, I mean, it's psychological. It's, you know, about attachments. It's about self-worth. So destructive relationships, which are quite common, you know, again, those two people are still looking to be loved, you know, but again, there's a difference between a 3 and a 4-year-old looking for love, asking for love, and, you know, a mature 40-year-old adult asking and looking for love, right? What's the difference? Well, a 3 or 4-year-old thinks it's all about them. A 3 or 4-year-old doesn't understand their own role in their emotionality or in their relationship. A 3 or 4-year-old can't look at the mirror and say, gee, how can I do this better, right? A 3 or 4-year-old doesn't know how to properly express anything to another being other than crying or stomping his feet or her feet or throwing things or calling somebody a name, or, right? That's what little kids know how to do because they haven't developed, you know, communication skills and skills for expressing their emotions. And, you know, they want what they want when they want it because they don't have any patience. So I think, you know, you can look at these, you know, very immature baby relationships. They're adults, but they're actually babies. And then, you know, as we grow, then we're more and more capable of a deeper love. You know, people I hear say, you know, we can have an innocent love. You know, the love is so innocent, you know, when you're a teenager because it's so pure. And I disagree. I think that is just about hormones and, you know, and newness and excitement, but that will die. That whatever it is, that lust, that new relationship will die. The most important thing to make love, real true love work, is to be able to be honest and vulnerable with another person that you find, you know, sexy and attractive and that you feel drawn to, but I don't know how to actually define it. It's very difficult, and I wish I could. Hi, Jeremy Eagle. When I look back, I don't think I've ever known true love, but I have loved. I would say that, okay, wait, let me see your next thing. Being loved is truly a great feeling. I felt it momentarily. Yeah. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. Like when you say momentarily, was it, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Jeremy, but that's very interesting. And I would say that I would agree with that idea. Like, I think we have glimpses and moments of what it really feels like to be loved. And there's different kinds of love, right? There's love from our brothers and sisters and parents and grandparents and friends. And then there's the romantic love. And the romantic love has the sexual component to it. And so it's really unique in that way, that it's this deep, love that has, also the physical attraction and sexual component to it. And it's just really a dynamic energy between two people. And I agree with Jeremy. I think, some people are really lucky and they get it like right away. And some people don't. And some people wait a whole lifetime to find it. But I think bottom line, that's what we're all looking for. And I think if you've had a few moments of it and never maybe a full-blown relationship with it, but moments, hang on to those moments and remember how it felt, because if you had it once, you can have it again, but you can have it even better and for an even longer time because you're more mature and you might know better how to make something like that really work and last in your life, because it's not easy. It's not easy. And I think, when we make ourselves vulnerable and we put ourselves out there, there is that chance that we could wind up feeling the pain that Phil Collins expresses in the opening song of Against All Odds. I think we have to be willing to take that chance, because it is very painful when love dies in your life, when love goes away. Even if it's not real love or true love, it's painful, very painful. Takes a lot of strength and courage to fall in love, really does. Still looking. Okay, well, you just keep looking, because the right person is out. I mean, I believe that the right person is out there for everybody. And I think, Jeremy, I know you're really looking for some, meaningful partnership, and I know that you're going to find it. And I have a feeling you make a very romantic partner and a very committed partner. And so any gal will be very lucky. And I hope you'll keep us posted in your searches, and we'll all be, sending you our thoughts of loving energy, and hope that love comes your way. And I think that love is already there, if that makes any sense. So let's wrap up on this idea. Okay. So if my hypothesis is true, which again, who knows, just my opinion. If my hypothesis is true, that behind all actions and reactions in general, positive or negative in this world, people are looking to be loved. They want to be loved. They want to be understood. If we understand that to be true, we agree that, yeah, okay, that's true, then how do we find it is the next question. How do we, okay, yeah, we want that. How do we get it? How do we get it? How do we get it? And I don't think we get it. The older I get and the more years I spend as a therapist, the more I'm changing my mind about how I think we get it. I used to think that, we had to kind of go after it. And we do. I do believe that. We have to be motivated, and we have to be open to and want to meet somebody, for sure. But I also think that we have to be in a certain state ourselves in order to attract that particular love to ourselves. Okay, now what do I mean by that? Because I know I'm going off track here. So what I mean is, okay, so if you are in a state of misery or negativity or, feeling down because you're heartbroken or whatever, it doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you human. We all go through that. But in that state, you're not really acknowledging or, feeling the other forms of love and beauty around you. And we're all guilty of that. I mean, this is not like, there's no shame. I mean, I've been there, done it 100 times. We all will. And, when we're hurting, we're down, right? Our light is down. Our love light is turned down. And so I think that in order to turn the light up, the love light, kind of, if you will, we need to be in love with other things. In other words, tap into the love all around us, which could be many things. It could be whatever is loving to you. It could be a beautiful sunny day. It could be beautiful flowers. It could be your dogs. It could be, your mom's chicken soup. It could be, jamming out to music and playing an instrument and rocking on. And I mean, whatever brings you that feeling of joy, and you're tapping into love. And I think when you stay in that state of love and joy as much as humanly possible, because it's not always possible, then you're more likely to, bring towards you other people who are looking for the same thing. If your love light is down, if your love light is turned down, then, it's a little bit harder. I don't know if that makes sense, but Jeremy, a lot of the women I meet seem to be just happy being alone. Interesting. But I think that's great, but that's not what I'm looking for. Yeah, that's not what you're looking for. No. Because, I know I've told this story on this show before, but I'm going to tell it again. When I was in graduate school, I was single there for a little while, a couple years, maybe a year and a half, I don't remember. And I was so busy with school and everything and work, I didn't really care or think about meeting somebody. And I remember I went into my my advisor's office, and she said, "So Statland, are you dating anybody?" And I was like, "No." And she's like, "Oh no?" And I said, "No." I said, I don't care. I was like, I don't need to be dating anyone. I'm busy. And she was like, "Yeah, well, don't get too comfortable with that." And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, if you get too comfortable being alone, then you're going to be alone for the rest of your life, and you're going to be really sorry." And that really struck me. And so, Jeremy, I think you have to look for women who want the same thing you do, who want to be, it's great. We can all be alone, and that's good, but that's not the goal. Or at least I don't think so. Maybe for some people. And if that's the goal for some people, then, God bless. But I think there's nothing more beautiful than being in relationships. And, there's nothing more, I would say, joyful. I'm going to, let your love light shine. I'm going to play, let me see it, taking us out. But yeah, there are a lot of women today who want to do that, but I would not recommend going out with women who want to be alone. I wouldn't do that, or men either, because what happens with that is, okay, I found the song I want to play. What happens with that is, okay, what happens with that is, then they're not going to really put a lot of effort into the relationship, and they're not going to care. Because if you don't care, if you just want to be alone the rest of your life, then, Jeremy, you must be young. How old are you, Jeremy, if I may ask? Because I'm just curious what age these women are that want to be alone. If you don't mind me asking, I'm just kind of curious. Okay, so let's wrap it all up here because I went from bing bang bong from one thing to another. So let's make sure that we understand everything that's going on here. Good morning, Jeremy, and good morning, Tim. What's going on? Hello, Tina. What is up? And who else? And another Jeremy, a couple Jeremys. And to anyone else whose name isn't on the screen that's watching, good morning, and I thank you sincerely for watching. Such a fun topic today and such a fun show. So, so we're talking about love. So we're talking about love and, how to understand, I suppose, that the motivation behind almost all human behavior is the desire and the need to be loved, even when that behavior looks very destructive and very ugly. And why is it important that I even mention this or I even talk about this? And I think it's important because if we understand our own true nature and we understand the true nature of other human beings, we can look upon our world, our relationships, everything in life, even the ugliness in life, with more compassion, which I think is critical in order to maintain your own mental health and your own sanity and your own, relationships without getting too turned off or put off by other human beings, because they can be, other human beings can be very off-putting in their behavior. And that a lot of the really destructive bad behavior that we see in love relationships, and I put quotes around them because they're not really loving, and destructive guised as love type relationships, they are generally very immature and childish relationships, right? So you have very immature lovers, like a 3 and a 4-year-old trying to make a loving relationship, which isn't going to happen because the 3 and a 4-year-old are only capable of expressing things in a certain way and expressing so much and so deeply. And so it helps us to have compassion towards our former lovers that have hurt us, future lovers that may hurt us, the world in general, society. And I think it's really, really important to understand those things. And 40. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I guess, Jeremy, you're running into those women who have, probably given up. That's my guess. And they're saying to you, because I'm 45, I know women that age. So let me comment on that for a second as I digress. Okay, so Jeremy, what's happening there is, so I think after a certain age, and I don't exactly know what that age is in America, but it's getting younger in some ways than it used to, because women are, pretty independent now. So it's changing the face of love and relationships, and that's for another show. But so I think what you're running into a lot of women who have given up on love, and they feel that they have to choose between, hey, I'm just going to love myself and I don't need anyone and I'll be fine, because that feels very empowering to say that. And then they can block themselves from the pain of really not meeting anybody and not doing the work to figure out why they're not meeting anybody, versus saying out loud, hey, like, I really want to meet someone and I'm really down that I can't. So it's, and that sounds like I'm making a suggestion that love and partnership is for everybody, because I do believe that in the basis of, human creation, that we were created to have relationships and to fall in love and procreate and all of that stuff. But, as society moves along and changes, a lot of women are saying, I don't need it. I don't want to put up with crap. I'll just be on my own. And I felt that way myself before, believe me. And then, they go out and they date and they say, oh, I just want to be alone. And like, to me, that's like BS. Then why are you dating? Why go out on a date if you just want to be alone? So if you approach the dating scene as a woman saying, well, I just want to be alone. I don't want to be with anybody. Then why go on a date? It's kind of misleading. And I don't think that there's anything weak or, shameful for women who haven't found love yet to say, I haven't found it, but I sure want it. I'm not going to hate myself if I don't have it, or, reject my life because I don't have it or something, but I'm going to be open to it, and I think that that's probably what you're running into. Yeah, right. Okay, Jeremy says, I agree that it is getting more common to give up, but they still desire love and attention. Exactly. So, and I have a lot of, single girlfriends in their 40s, a lot, and in their 50s too. And, divorced, single for years, never married, you name it. I've got them all in my life and have been myself, through a lot in love lands. And I think, women give up. They give up at a certain point. And I think the reason women give up is because women are told that, if you're not married and popping out your first child by 25, you're an old maid. And that's been going on so long over the years that women start to have such self-disappointment when they're single, never been married or divorced, and they're in their 40s and 50s. Like, I have 50-year-old friends that'll say to me, like, I'm too old, like, it's over. And I'm thinking, you look like you're 30. Most of my friends look like they're 30, and my clients, and they think it's over, because society has said to them, this is the societal expectation of women. And if you can't meet that, then, you're an old maid. And so I think there's a point where women they're so hurt by that narrative. And it comes at us from every dimension that we just go, okay, screw it. I guess I'll be an old maid in a shoe, and so I think you're probably meeting a lot of women, but it's not your problem, Jeremy. And those women have to deal with their own, crap. And if they're going on a date, I think the actions speak louder than words. So if they're going on a date, they must be looking for something. But maybe you need a woman who can be a little more vulnerable and say, yeah, I'm really looking to be in a relationship. That's what I want, because then, hey, you're working from the same playing field. Who wants to go out with someone who doesn't really want to be going out with someone? That'll put a damper on the evening. Okay, so I've been in good and bad relationships and am now at a point in my life that I know what I want and don't want and refuse to settle for less. I know that drastically limits my options, but I'd rather be alone until I meet the right person. Yes, I think that's a healthy, a healthy approach, right? Saying that I can be alone, I will be alone before I'll be abused or mistreated or something. But I'm not gonna. I'd rather be alone than in bad company, right? Which I think is smart, very smart. But I think also, we do have expectations as we get older, and those expectations obviously are hopefully realistic and, fit within our, our framework of what we're looking for, as long as they're not fantasies, and you don't really know whether you're fantasizing or not until you actually start dating, and then, you get a sense of, okay, and listen, men at our age, have their own set of issues that are very different than women's. But I think that when you kind of let your love light shine, and you turn up the energy on that and just say, you know, I do believe that there are so many lovely things around me and that love is all around me, not to sound like, you know, hippy dippy or a Hallmark card, because I'm not that way, but you know, that there is beauty and love in the world and everything. If I can kind of tap into feeling that or experiencing that, then I think you get yourself into a state of being open and ready for love, as opposed to someone who comes at it with the love light down, saying like, oh, I've been hurt a million times, I'm not going to be hurt again, and blah, blah, blah. You know, so, you know, we can talk more about that because it's, you know, another time, but I want to make sure that this whole show makes sense, right? So I open up with a guy who's devastated because he couldn't communicate with the woman that he loved, and, you know, he's desperately, you know, against all the odds, hoping that somehow she'll come back to him, but he knows it's not going to happen in his heart, and so he's trying to face it, and he's absolutely distraught. And I think it's one of the most beautiful, moving ballads. It actually moves me so much when I hear it, but it actually gets me upset, and like I have a stomach ache when I listen to it, even though I love that song because it's so beautiful. And so we open with that idea of, you know, what is it that we're all afraid of? And it's this. It's exactly what the song is expressing. We are afraid of not being loved. And that is the motivation in everything we do as human beings, in my view, of course. It's behind bad behavior, good behavior, everything in between behavior. And it's important to understand how this idea operates so that we can be more compassionate towards ourselves, towards others, and to make our lives easier and less painful. And when you can look upon other people with love and compassion, and understand they're just desperate to be loved, even in the really bad behavior, with the exception of evil, which we did put in its own little category, you know, you can take it sort of less personally, and you can also be easier on yourself, which I think is very important. And I think in the end, we're talking about, okay, so we're afraid of not being loved. So how do we obtain love? Like meaningful love, real love that's going to be meaningful in our lives. And what is it even? And again, I am not smart enough to define it, but we've talked about some ideas of what it looks like and how we might get it. And I think that, you know, we have to be open to love in general, and not just a love of one romantic partner, but love that's all around us. Catherine Marie, good morning. Hi, Liz. Good morning, Catherine. Always lovely to see you. Thanks for dropping in. I am 53. I have admirers. I bet you do. And I'm not opposed to a coffee date or a dinner date. I don't want an in-depth relationship. I don't want someone living with me or off of me. Nor do I want to give up my new house in life after ending a 35-year relationship, nor do I want to be the other woman. Many are intimidated by independent women and make the mistake by thinking we need a man. I don't need a man, but if I want a man, that's totally different. It's been an interesting 3 years, to say the least. By the way, it's always nice when I can catch you live. Congrats on your move to Florida. Thank you. Okay, I have a lot to say to that. Okay, Catherine. So, okay, where shall I begin? First of all, you know, agreed, okay, in everything that you're saying. But in your statement and how you wrote it, it's, I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want that. So that tells me that you probably had all those things done to you, and, you know, and so now you're declaring to yourself and to the world that never again. Never again. So you're protecting yourself by saying, I don't want this. I don't want this. I don't want this. I don't want that. I don't want that. Okay. To me, that's, the early steps and stages of recovering from being hurt and being, stepped on and used and all that. Because I've been in that I don't want this mode for many years. In different periods of my life. I totally get it. Now, where you start to turn the page here is you start to turn the page by saying, where is it? You say, if I want a man, that's totally different. Okay, so when you're now turning from the no to these 20 things, no to all these things, a maybe to something different than all those things. And that's fine. But what I would say is, when you're in, if this went on for 35 years, okay, then you're going to need some more time, because 35 years is a lifetime, and it really brainwashes you and does a number on you. Although I think you're way beyond all that from what I've heard from you on the shows. Like, you get it all. You see through all the BS, and you get it. You're educated, you're informed, you know what you did wrong, you get it. And now it feels so empowering for you, so good to you to, know that you're not doing that anymore, that you're just loving the freedom, you're loving your independence, you love yourself, maybe for the first time ever. And so you love the feeling so much that you don't really want to lose it. So you're thinking in your head, well, if I'm going to have somebody, in my life, if I'm going to have some man in my life, then I might have to give up this phenomenal feeling. And I'm not doing that. So 2 pieces of advice for you on that one. First of all, I love it. I'm so happy for you, and you ride out that love and empowerment for as long as you want, and don't ever lose it. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. But the other thing I would say is, in time, whenever that might be, 2 years, 6 months, 5 years, whenever, you feel like you might be open to, having someone in your life, I promise you this, that you will never repeat what you did before. I just know and sense that from the way you speak and write and everything. So you don't need to worry about that anymore. But I think what you need to do at some point, just maybe as an experiment, is see what different type of people that you might be bringing into your world, again, not today, but maybe in 6 months, after you have more time to grow and change and move and so on and so forth. Because you just might, find someone, because I think that when relationships are right, when they work, it's very easy and it's not complicated. And, you're 53, and this is, the 50s, I'm not there yet, but I know the 50s are, like, people love their 50s and say they're wonderful. I'm loving my 40s, so I can't wait to see what my 50s will be like. But I think that we are so young, the way we take care of ourselves in these days, like, we're going to have a long life, and we can really decide, how we want to do things. But you might want to think about, at some point turning your love light up, because you do, I think, I would say you are worthy of love. I think we all are, not all, but most of us are worthy of that feeling of love. And I think that there's ways that we can bring it to ourselves, and instead of, pushing it away. But anyway, thank you so much, guys. Love this show. And yes, and I found myself again. Yeah, I sense that. I really sense that, Catherine. I'm really happy, truly excited for you. and always love seeing you here on the Liz Live Show, which, you know, is rolling on every Saturday morning and Wednesday morning at 11 a.m. This morning, I was running late and I apologize, but I'm dog sitting another third dog, and things got a little hectic with time this morning. And here we are. And anyway, so cool show, guys. Thank you all. I love when you guys participate. It really, it's great. It makes me feel alive because it's like I'm really doing kind of some therapy, like, you know, live therapy, which is really fun. So I'm going to take us out today with the Grateful Dead, Turn On Your Love Light. And it's a great song. And I hope you guys will turn your love light on. And thank you so much for watching Liz Live Saturday morning. I will be back here Wednesday morning at 11 a.m. And who knows what we're going to talk about. Happy Saturday, everybody.
And you left me standing in a dark corner, said your love for me was dying. So come on, baby, baby, please, oh, baby, baby, when I'm on my knees, turn on your light, let it shine on me, turn on your love light, let it shine on me, hey, let it shine, let it shine. Get a little lonely in the middle of the night. I need you, darling, to make things alright. So come on, baby, please. And I'm begging you, baby, cause I'm on my knees. Turn on your light, let it shine on me. Turn on your light, let it shine on me. Hey, let it shine, let it shine.